side note, we never touched on this the last episode we did, and there's been a bunch of back and forth about Nick Diaz. Dana White saying they have him signed to fight Jorge Masvidal. Nick Diaz just saying that's just not true. And I guess he did another interview where he was hammered, and he was like, yeah, you got to go to Bellator. That's where it's at. Scott Coker needs to step up and make him an offer. What the fuck is going on with Nick Diaz? Why is there no rhyme or reason to what's going on with this guy? I want to see him. We all want to see him come back. But at what point is enough going to be enough? And you're like, dude, stop. Like, as a fan, you're pissing me off. Like, just fucking make a decision. Go to Bellator then. I'll watch you fight in Bellator. Fine. Yeah. Go to Bellator. Do it.
Well, I don't think it's as simple as just going to Bellator, because if he's under contract with the UFC, then that creates all kinds of legal problems for him and possibly Bellator as well. He said yesterday, I read on ESPN.com, Helwani had done an article, and he said that I didn't even start talking about a fight. I didn't even contact them and saying I wanted a fight. This is the UFC doing this, so I'm not bothered. He said, I've got multiple businesses that I'm running and I'm busy with that. He said, if they want to make me an offer that makes sense for me, that makes sense for the UFC and makes sense for me, he said, then I'll entertain it. By the way, I'm just saying what was quoted in this article yesterday. If you look it up on ESPN.com, I see that's what you're doing right now. But, Diaz, just fight, man. When he's older, I mean, I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I don't know what's going on with his business endeavors. Who knows? Maybe he's making a ton of money outside the UFC and he doesn't need to fight. If that's the case, then fair enough, and I respect that, of course. But just be frank and say, listen, I think my fighting days are behind me. But if he does want to fight, I think he might be filled with some regret when he's older. You only get one career, and he hasn't fought since 2013. It's almost 5 years since he fought Anderson Silva. In January, it's 5 years.
And he looked good in that fight. He lost, but he looked good great in that fucking fight. What are you going to do? Against a guy who, and Nick, by the way, has fought as low as 160 pounds. He's not a 185 pounder by any sense. Anderson has fought and won at 205 pounds. So he fought a guy who was bigger than him and technically more proficient than him. And he still fought a really close fight with him. The problem with Nick, and I think this is going to be, not only is it going to be a time thing where he's taken off and ring rust and all that other bullshit, but it's like, I don't think Nick Diaz is out there training and sparring with world champion level fighters all the time. I don't think he's keeping himself in that type of condition. The sport's evolving constantly, bringing in guys. I think that's why, guys that become champions, when you get to the UFC, you get to that high level, you see the best out of these guys. I can never really tell how good a guy is going to be when he's not in the UFC yet, because they're not even training on that level. When you're training to be the absolute best against the absolute best, especially at a championship level, it's a different type of thing. And I would bet my life on it that Nick Diaz is smoking weed and playing with nunchucks.
Yeah, 100%. And I probably sign off on that bet as well. He probably is. But there is something, I got two things to say on that. Firstly, the fight is still within him. That mental edge, that ability to fight, that certain special something that a person needs to be able to step into an octagon and fight at such a high level and be successful, that will never go away. Yeah, okay, there might be new techniques that evolve and this and that, but at the end of the day, when you've got it, you've got it. I don't give a fuck. I'll sit on my ass for 5 fucking years and come out and beat someone up. Do you know what I mean? Ring rust only exists inside your mind, So I don't really think that's too much of an issue. I think for Diaz, though, the biggest thing, and as I say, I don't know what his business endeavors are. So if I'm speaking out of turn, then I apologize. But looking at it from the outside in, it would appear that he's letting the best years of his life as a fighter, the small window that you have, he's letting that pass him by. He hasn't fought for almost 5 years. The fans really want to see him because they enjoy him. And I understand he wants more money, and that's great. I understand that. But I think maybe when he's 60 years old and he's sitting there, he might look back and think, you know what? I should have fought more. He's at a point now. He's got a big name. He's very famous. He's a very, very good fighter. He's one of the most famous fighters in the game. Him and his brother. But they're not active. And realistically, yeah, I get it. They're holding out because of their principles. They want more money. But ultimately, they're only hurting themselves. And I respect the fact that they drive a hard bargain. You should do that. You should get what you're worth, 100%. I'm not saying they shouldn't. But ultimately, if if the UFC is the best horse in town and they can't go anywhere else, fucking fight. Make some money. You know what I mean?
Worth, you say, get what you're worth. You're only worth what somebody is willing to pay for you. So if you keep on coming back and going, hey, I'm worth this, and no one's willing to pay to that amount of money to see you fight, then you need to reevaluate your self-worth. I'm not saying that, there's not a bigger fan of the Diaz brothers. Like if Nick Diaz or Nate Diaz are fighting, I'm rooting for them 99.9% of the time. I couldn't imagine if Nick Diaz fought you, that'd be the only time I think I couldn't root for Nick Diaz. I'm like, oh, well, fuck. I can't root for Nick Diaz now. That sucks. Because I'm that much of a fan of his. But I think that they have an inflated sense of self-worth. And I think that they see what happened with Conor, and there's good and bad. The good side of what happened with Conor is that I think Conor opened the window for a lot of fighters to make a lot more money. And a lot of people will go, wait a minute, time out. There's that much money in this business? Hold on. But then the bad side is then some guys are going like, oh, well, I'm not fighting, so I see that. And now we might not see guys like Nick or Nate Diaz fight again because they're holding out for this sort of unattainable goal.
Well, it's like I think it was last episode we were talking about it. And listen, I'm all for fighters making more money. I think it's fair to say that the UFC, is a very, very profitable business. They sold for $4.something billion. But we are seeing that change over years. And Conor McGregor was a big part of that. Credit where credit's due. Ronda Rousey was making a lot of money. I'm sure there's other fighters out there as well. If John Jones comes back and wins in style against Gustafsson in a couple of weeks, we might see him be one of those big guys as well. So there is more money being earned now, but I think there's a lot of other guys that aren't champions, that aren't pay-per-view draws, that they want that kind of money as well, and that isn't a sustainable business model, and B, some of those fighters aren't worth it. They've only got that platform of being a main event. By the way, this sounds like I'm anti-fighter. I'm not. I'm all about the fighters getting everything what they deserve. But the UFC now, as a business, are contracted to various TV networks to put on X amount of fights per year. They're contracted to put on 50 fights per year, and they're not pay-per-view. They need to fill them, so they create these main events. 4 guys on the roster because they need to fill it. That doesn't mean if you headline an FS1 card, that doesn't mean you should be getting pay-per-view and worth millions of dollars. Because if they had decided to put that fight on that thing or have that business contract to fulfill, that fight wouldn't take place in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like people are clamoring. I mean, who was the last FS1 headliner? Who was it?
I don't even know.
Last couple of weeks ago. All right. Well,
point proven, by the way.
Who was it?
Point fucking proven. We don't even remember the last Fox Sports 1 headliner, and we talk about this shit every week. What, Arrington?
Usman versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, right?
Usman versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Oh. Okay. No, Dos Anjos.
Yeah, versus Dos Anjos. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, buddy. Dos Anjos, great fighter. Legendary, really is. OG of the game. Awesome. I love the guy personally, and I love watching him fight. He's a true fighter. Usman, hella talented. Couldn't sell a pay-per-view to save his life right now. He probably would sell some.
Usman.
Yeah, exactly. Costa Filler. Usman? So that's my point. Now listen, terrific fighters, yes. Work very hard, yes. Deserve to be compensated very well for their time. The fact they're willing to step in there and fight, yes.
Of course.
Millions of dollars per fight.
And they are, by the way. They're compensated pretty damn well for, we did touch on this in the last show. It's like, well, what would you do? What do you think would happen if it wasn't a UFC promoted event? If you just went to some regional show, would Kamaru Usman? Would anybody be watching? Would anybody really care? He would be.
Well, I'm sure in his immediate community and this and that,
of course,
and people outside of that would go and watch him. He's a very, very talented mixed martial artist.
I'm talking about the amount of money to be made. Could he sell a pay-per-view? Like, look, Conor could do this. Conor could go and get a pay-per-view deal by himself, say, I'm going to fight on this card, Conor fucking FC, and I'm going to headline it. And he could probably sell 1 million pay-per-views based off of his own name. I don't think he'd sell 4 or 5 million pay-per-views. I don't think it is very much a big part of the UFC and the way they market and it's not even just the fact that they're putting the money into it.
He probably sell somewhere between 500 to 800,000 pay-per-views, I'd say, by himself without the UFC marketing and all the rest of it. But he's an incredible marketing machine as it is. In the papers this morning, by the way, he just dodged a speeding fine or something. He's already banned from driving. He's 6 months. He got his license taken away for 6 months, but he beat something in court this morning. Anyway, popped up on my Twitter. Sorry, I don't have all the fucking details, everybody. Anyway, but yeah, but just going back to our point, or even Ponzinibbio or Gunnar Nelson, I think they were an FS1 FS1 main event. Same thing, talented fighters, but you're fulfilling a business contract for the UFC to Fox. You know what I mean? People aren't clamoring to those arenas to watch that fight in particular. Yes, that's the best fight of a collection of fights that have been put on that night, and that is what they are deeming the main event, But that is it. Whoa, we have got to see Ponzinibbio versus Gunnar Nelson. This is crazy. Now I'm saying they're both exciting fighters. They're both great, and I love watching both of them. But they're in the main event slot because the UFC put this business model together.
And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity at that point. When the UFC decides to main event two guys like that, what the UFC is doing is they're saying, hey, just so you know, we want all eyes on you. You now have an opportunity to possibly parlay this into this next big fight. Now maybe a pay-per-view, maybe main event or co-main event of a pay-per-view or a title shot or whatever it is. It's not lost. Anybody complaining about the amount of money they make if they're main eventing a Fox Sports 1 card, it's sort of what you do with the opportunity. And you've seen guys, this isn't anything in life. This isn't just in the UFC, but everything that happens, you can sort of parlay into the next opportunity. And the guys who can play the game the right way, that's exactly what they do. And you can make a shit ton of money. And there's no other game in town that's going to pay you anywhere near as much money. And a part of that is the fact that the UFC, they're very, very smart with the business, and they've set themselves up for a long-term plan for both themselves and the fighters. The fighters are all reaping the benefits of the work that the UFC is putting in.
Well, and that was on display, really. I mean, I know Tito and Chuck Liddell, they're guys that are past their best days, but they did that. They went to Golden Boy. They got 200 and 250,000 respectively. And I think they sold 30, 40,000 pay-per-views, so which was a shame for them. I wish they sold a lot more just for Tito and Chuck because they deserve it for being OGs of the sport. But there you go. Let's leave that one there.
Mike, real quick, let's just talk about Blue Chew, which is one of my favorite sponsors. I barely even have sex anymore without using my Blue Chew. It is not, a lot of people don't know what it is. People hear about it sometimes and like, well, what is that? First of all, it has the same active ingredients as Viagra or Cialis. This is a chewable tablet. It tastes good. It's like a little piece of fucking candy that gives you a boner. This is not for, any sort of dysfunction or erectile dysfunction. This is a sexual enhancement pill that can really help you. I'm telling you right now, I feel like more of a man. I've been with a chick for a couple years now. Everyone knows you have sex with the same person over the course of time. You need a little spice in your life. This is just the perfect amount of pepper on my fucking salad. It's a bad analogy. Whatever.
Perfect amount of pep. Perfect amount of pep around your step or your salad. I don't know, whatever you're into. But if you are looking to last a little longer, maybe go a few extra rounds, then BlueChew.com is the way to go. It's the first ever chewable that brings you performance in the bedroom. It's the first ever chewable that brings your performance in the bedroom to another level. As Lewis was saying, you don't have to go to the doctor's office. You don't have to get an appointment at the doctor. Wait in a pharmacy line because Blue Chew ships straight to your door in discreet packaging. And as Lewis said, listen, it's been a while since Lewis felt like a man. I don't know if he's ever really felt like a man, but he can pretend to be one when he's on Blue Chew because he becomes the man. He becomes the man of that bedroom. He's doing things that he never thought possible before. And of course, because it's Christmas and because we love you guys, we got a fantastic deal for you. So how do you do it? How do you get involved? How do you get this miracle wonder pill that you chew, not swallow? Pardon the pun. But here's what you do. You visit BlueChew.com and you get your first shipment free when you use the promo code BYM.
Happy New Year.
$5 shipping. Again, that's BlueChew.com, promo code BYM. And just quickly, Blue Chew is a performance enhancer. As we said, if sex were an Olympic sport, Blue Chew would be banned. Blue Chew gives you confidence in the bedroom, and Blue Chew is the first ever chewable with the same active ingredient, as Lewis said, as Viagra and Cialis. You can take it on an empty stomach. It's cheaper than other competitors. It only takes a few minutes to fill out the form. So really, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go to BlueChew.com, BlueChew, BlueChew.com, promo code BYM. Pay $5 shipping, and oh my God, let the good times roll, baby. All right, Lewis, where were we?